This is incredible. The federal court rejects Trump's unbounded authority to impose worldwide tariffs. Guys, welcome to the channel, More Survivalist, and this is just latest news right now. Markets reacting positively to this, as you would expect. Now, let me make this perfectly clear. I'm finding myself often in this position where I'm not a contrarian, because I'm not either or against Donald Trump in the same way I'm not for or against any other politician, because I take it for what it is. There's things that I like, there's things that I don't like. I've always said I think this tariff thing was dumb. The idea of calling a tariff a trade deficit simply because you print the world's reserve currency, it is dumb. It was a bad idea, and now that it's been axed, the market reacts positively. Is that always good? Does the market always look after the best interests of the little people? No. But it just shows you how money behaves. This does not change a fact here, which is this is undermining the authority of the President of the United States. You can like Trump or not. And again, it is very difficult these days because you rarely find objective views. It's either Trump fans or pro-Trumpers or the anti-Trumpers. And I think both are not a healthy position to have. You need a critical eye. It used to be that adults could do these things of saying, okay, yeah, I like that. I agree with that. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. That's fucking stupid. Let's not do that. We used to be able to do that. Now, it's all about fanatism. You're a fanboy on one end or the other. But this is what's happening as of right now. It's getting, of course, the typical talking heads are destroying Trump and enjoying the moment. I think it's dangerous because he is, after all, the democratically elected president of the United States. And as wrong as he may have been, which I believe he was, this is not the way of doing things.
And it came late. This is an extraordinary development. It came late in the evening here in Washington. In Europe and across Asia, they will be waking up and scratching their heads, I think, and wondering what this means, because on the face of it, it means that everything, all those tariffs, remember Liberation Day, remember all the tariffs, the reciprocal tariffs that Trump put in place, all of that's gone, apparently, with the swipe of a judicial pen, or three judges in an obscure court in New York, who have been looking at the case regarding Trump's tariffs, have concluded that it is unconstitutional, that he did not have the power as president to put in place such sweeping tariffs, that it is in fact Congress who has that power. What Trump tried to do was exert a power from the 1970s, the International Emergency Economies Power Act of 1977. That, he thought, enabled him to be able to put in place these sweeping tariffs. This court has ruled that he did not have that authority. In fact, they have released, as part of their judgment, they've said the president's assertion of tariff-making authority in the instant case, unbounded as it is by any limitation in duration or scope, exceeds any tariff authority delegated to the president. The worldwide and retaliatory tariffs are thus ultra vires and contrary to the law.
This is because Trump used this thing of, well, we are in an emergency. This is a crisis. We're getting ripped off by the entire world. Everyone is taking advantage of us. Which, as I said, from the first moment, it is simply not true. No one is taking advantage of the United States. If anything, it is the United States who prints the money that the world uses. This is like you getting angry because you print money with your own printer in your own office, in your living room. You're printing wherever it is that you have a printer in your house. You print money and you go and you use it, and then you go, hey, but you're not buying stuff from me. No, you're the guy printing the money. You always have more money than everyone else. That's how this works, and we're okay with that, as as problematic as it may be. But you're in charge. You print the money. We just accept that as a fact. Getting upset about that was ridiculous. He said that this was an emergency, an economic emergency, because these tariffs, which in fact are a trade deficit, this is critical. It is not true. All of this trade deficit thing, it is simply, all of this tariff thing, the tariff that everyone has on the United States, it is simply not true. What he called a tariff was in fact a trade deficit because of the situation I just explained. The United States prints money, has more money, buys from everyone else, especially from smaller countries. Using that, he said, this is an emergency and we have to do something about it, and I have the authority to do this right now. But the reality is that the trade deficit that the United States has with everyone else has been going on for about half a century. About 50 years, the United States has been doing this. Happily so. The idea of buying cheaper from China or from anywhere else, while at the same time having companies that are American companies but take manufacturing elsewhere because it's cheaper. No one forced these companies to do this. These companies do this. Many times American companies do this in China and Mexico because it's cheaper and it leaves more money in their pockets. When you want to blame anyone, you can blame Wall Street, you can blame people that have a lot of money, not exactly the Vietnamese starving peasant that is working in a factory and, you're abused, you're stealing from the United States. No one is stealing from the United States. This is something that was creating a lot of conflict. Now, as much as I don't agree with this being a good idea, and again, I think it was stupid, and if you want to balance things, you can do this in a far more effective and less destructive manner, let's call it that, all right? And certainly not making stuff up about a tariff being a trade deficit, which is simply not, okay? But the idea that a couple judges get together and undo what the President of the United States is doing, well, that makes you wonder, how much authority does the President have? How much authority do the American people have? I may not agree with what he was doing, but obviously a lot of people did. I think it was a big mistake. I think people would get bitten in the ass very soon if it continues to go on, if you have 150% a tariff with China. And inflation would do a lot of damage, and price hikes and poverty and everything else. But if that was the decision of the American people, that should have been respected, no matter how much you agree or disagree with that. We're not seeing that anymore. The President of the United States apparently has less power than a couple judges. With his big announcement, Liberation Day, you can laugh all you want, you can disagree all you want, but this was one of his main things of his presidency so far. And it just gets erased. Folks, it's interesting. It's interesting to see who's really managing things, who controls the world, who controls the United States, who picks up a phone and says, Donald, you have to do this right now. And Donald says, okay, we're doing that. That's how it goes. It's crazy, but obviously that's how it goes. Folks, if you want to prepare for everything going on and a lot more, what's to come, you have the channel with a lot of information. Subscribe to the channel. Everyone watching that has not subscribed yet, do so. You have the link that's somewhere there. And you have my books, Street Survival Skills, Surviving the Economic Collapse. Very relevant given the topic of today's video.